All right. Let's do it. Fishing topic. I loved all that to lead in. I'm leaving it in the housekeeping. If you want to hear all the shit that Tim was just talking about, chefing it up and getting stuck with hooks, well,
Hell yeah.
go listen to the full podcast if you're listening to this on the random take, on the split day. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
The full one's got all the goods. Here we go. Beginner's Guide, Volume 3. In episode 67, we did a general lures episode. And it was a lot of spinners and spoons and stuff like this. And I was like, I don't know if we're going to get to all of it. Turns out, no. There was no fucking way we were going to get to everything I had on the list.
Hell no.
Also, to give this a heads up, if this is your first one, great. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yep.
You can go back to episode 75 where we talked Beginner's Guide to Jigs. Episode 67 again. That was sort of our kick this off. Let's see how far we get. And it ended up spinning off maybe 2 or 3 more episodes. We're on volume 3. Here we are. We're talking crankbaits. We're trying to keep it beginner. Tim has a ton laying out. I think we're a little bit worried about how long this will go, but you know what? I got a timer going. We're going to keep it tight. We're going to try to keep it high level and not get into like specifics about you take over. What am I trying to say, Tim?
Okay. Yeah, because we're not trying to go into like too crazy depth, but I do want to touch on like different bill shapes and kind of explain like what you're looking at when you see these things, because we are talking about the beginner's guide. So when you're going and looking at these things, like if I just told you like this was this shape, you're still gonna like look at the stuff on the shelf and be like,
right,
but why that one look different than the outer one?
Right. Yeah, and it's not about like get this one in the water column here to get this kind of fish and shit like that. It's like what you just said. You put it perfect. Like you're going to go into the store and you're going to look at it. Like we're trying to make that a little bit more of an educated experience for you so that way you feel comfortable going in to a bait shop and just going,
exactly,
this is what crankbait I'm looking for and why.
Yep. And try to give you a little bit more of an idea of what some of these things that you're looking at are. So you're not just like, why? Because when you go into like, there's one whole row of Rapalas, and that's just one brand. So when you go in, you're like, this is just one fucking brand. It's like, yeah, that one's pretty popular. But when you go through the other ones, you see them and you're just kind of like, what the fuck am I looking at? And then when you start seeing the different things too, like they can get really confusing because there's lipless crankbaits and regular crankbaits. And those are so different in the looks, but they kind of fish the same. So to start it off
before, hold on. Let me. I want to jump in quick, just because of the way you said it. First of all, this, like you were just saying, you go and you look at. I know it's hard, and you're gonna like if you're listening to this on audio, we're gonna do our damnedest. We always do our best to describe it. But I got one of these up right now. It's skinny. It's skinny little stick with 3 treble hooks on it.
Yep.
This ain't a crankbait, is it?
Technically, yes.
But
that's like a jerk bait. Now that one that you have right there looks like the original. Like that's where they started off. That's what a crankbait was. That's like a Rapala. Original floating. Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
So that's kind of where they started off. It was, with the Rapalas and stuff. That's where they started, but that's more of like a jerk bait. You can cast those out and just retrieve them straight. And you can, you can work them like a jerk bait, which you pop them and stuff too. But that's not what we're really talking about today.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to I have this one and I want to be like, this is not what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I don't call this, some people call this a stick bait.
Yep.
This is referred to as a jerk bait mainly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what that one, that's they're technically crankbaits, but that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
And we're not talking about like the walleye kind of crankbaits either, because those,
oh my God,
there's more of those.
What?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, there's
okay. No, sorry, I'm interrupted. Go, please.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, a walleye stuff, like a very popular walleye bait is a Berkeley flicker shad. And they're more of like this, or like a shad wrap is a popular one too.
Okay.
That's not what I'm talking about today either, but this is a jointed one.
Oh yeah, okay. Where it's got that the tail basically is disconnected from the head in a way.
Yeah.
Or like it's got like a swivel in the middle of it.
Right. Yep. So it kind of gives a different vibration and stuff. But I was just giving some examples, or like there's ones that are more of like,
yeah. And you're starting off with what cranks aren't, because everything you're showing is an artificial fish with treble hooks on it. Like, to break it down to its simplest form, it's an artificial fish with treble hooks on it. But you're showing these other ones to be like, this is not a crankbait. If you're talking about crankbaits, we'll get to it.
I think the like technical old school definition is like a plug with a lip. and a plug is like something that floats. And because you can make it out of wood, you can make it out of plastic. Old school was like mainly balsa wood and stuff. That I think that's still a lot of what Rapala uses today. But you got like this one, I don't know. I think this one's made out of wood. But this is called a tail dancer.
Jesus.
And he's kind of scared. Look at that fucking bill.
Dude. This is a crankbait now?
This is for trolling. Well, this is technically it's a crankbait. This is more of a crankbait than the jerkbaits were, because of like the body shape is different,
Yeah.
But this one is made to dive to 30 feet.
Jesus.
Yeah. But that bill is crazy. So anyways, these are different styles of crankbaits, but you can get the same idea of like the bill when we're talking about stuff. So those are different. And I suppose we could talk about those on a different episode and kind of get into that shit. But honestly, I'm not as well versed with the crankbaits for the walleyes, because those for me seem to work better on like dingier water. And for the most part, I fish clear water.
Yep.
So, but I also just prefer to fish walleye with other baits, so I don't use crankbaits a lot, even though I have a shit ton of them. But bass, I know. And so we're talking about crankbaits today that are like maybe the most popular one. This is a Rapala DT10. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's
little like
chubby.
Yeah, kind of like chubby baits.
Like, okay, so that's one thing that I'm picking up now. The curve, that stick bait, that jerk bait that I have, it has like no curve.
Right. Yeah, that's what like this stick bait still has like a little bit of a curve, but it's more to like it's the body shape. You can see it's like pointed in the back and gets a little bit thicker in the front. It's like a different shape than some of the other ones, but so you start to get more of like into the crankbaits, even though they're shaped differently than those stick baits that are like the original floating lures that are just, like a pencil, almost like the same size.
Right.
But so I'm going to start by telling you about the lipless crankbaits real quick.
Okay, so good. Because that was like my number one I had on here. I'm like, everything I've seen with the crankbait, it's a lip, it's a chubby fish. It's got treble hook on the front and on the tail. Like 2 treble hooks, chub in the front, lip on the front. And then I'm like, fuck, lipless.
Yeah, that's more of what I consider to be a crankbait too. Like I know that tail dancer I just held up had 2 hooks. So that one's kind of a little bit harder, but like everything else that I'm talking about right now, like what I consider to be a crankbait is like a 2 hook situation for the most part. Every time you get long enough for it to be 3 hooks, it's just it gets into that like jerk bait category for me is how I talk about them.
Yeah, and I saw that a lot like across different resources too when I was just looking shit up.
So okay, you can see like that's the tail. I'll hold it by the tail, but that's the front. There is no lip. No. There is no bill.
It's still kind of got that. It's still got like a gut on it, back to a point in the tail though. Like it's still pointy tail with a gut in the front.
Yes. Yep. Because it still has. That's, I think, just how you get it to vibrate, to move properly. You have the majority of what's catching water in the front, and then the back is smaller, so that makes it so it can go back and forth. And even though this doesn't technically have a bill, it does have this flat slope that's catching water. You know, so it's flat there and it's catching water, and it makes it swim, and it's a very high vibration. And I don't know if there's a lipless crankbait that doesn't have loud ass rattles.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I think, and they're all, when you fish these and you cast them out and you reel them in, the feeling when you're reeling them in feels like a cat's purr sounds.
Oh my God. That is such a wild description.
But it's like, as you're reeling it, you can literally feel it. And it's like,
right.
You know, like fast as shit. And if you yo-yo it, it's literally just like a cat purring. It's like,
whoa.
So yeah, dude, isn't that cool?
That is.
So this is Strike King Red Eye Shad. This is my favorite. And this is also the one where I buried the hook deep into my fucking fingers.
Oh shit, the one that I put in the thumbnail. And
yeah, this isn't the one, but that's the exact.
It's the same thing. And so are these are lipless? Do they? I don't want to say because you said they got that little bit of a tilted front, so they're not surface, but are they like high in the water column, like way up there?
Nah, they're wherever you want to put them. That's another thing that's really nice about lipless crankbaits, because lipless crankbaits sink. So you can kind of count it down along with the countdown. Like this is technically a crankbait too, you know, but it's a stick, but the shape is a little bit more like higher backed. But this is a countdown. And this and the lipless crankbaits, like if you're looking to put something like wherever you want it in the water column, each one weighs a little bit different and stuff, but you can cast it out and just count it. The countdown by Rapala, your line makes a difference. But the idea behind these, the idea behind these is literally a foot per second. So you cast
as you're reeling in.
Now, before you start reeling, you cast it out.
Sinking.
You wanted to get,
it's sinking.
So if you cast it out and you know you want it to get down like 5 feet in the water, count to 5 before you start reeling.
Sweet.
1, 2, that kind of shit. So it's like the same thing with like these. Some of it's kind of a trial and error thing. Sometimes you can dick around off the dock or with your boat like closer, so you can get a good feel. Like, oh, I know the water's like 3 feet deep here. You can like put it on the top of the water and drop it and count and see how fast it takes you to hit the bottom. And you're like, all right, that was 2.5 seconds. I dropped 3 feet.
Okay.
So I can kind of, you know, every 5 seconds I'm dropping 6 feet, kind of, you know, give yourself an idea of whatever you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
So you can play with it. But there's different body styles. Probably the most common one that you're going to be able to find everywhere and is still going to work super well is the rattle trap.
Whoa.
This has been around forever. Bill Lewis rattle trap. You can buy these at Walmart. You can buy these anywhere. They make all sorts of colors.
It's super pointy in the nose compared to like the other cranks like that you've already held up and stuff.
Yeah, this one's like super old school, and it just has that like pointy shape. The whole thing, it's almost like a football. It's like the same.
It is. Now that
the same in the back as it is in the front, and this one's just a cool ass like holographic.
It's like a football with a mohawk.
Yeah, they don't all have that, but
okay.
Yeah, dude, they're freaking cool. And these ones, so real quick, I'm not gonna go into like super in depth and stuff about everything.
Yeah.
But a crankbait like this, a lipless crankbait, because it has such a fast vibration, excels in like colder water.
Really?
A tighter vibration is better in colder water.
Oh,
and
okay.
a bigger, wider wobble is better in like warmer water.
Oh,
And then in between, you can kind of mess with them.
okay.
But if you talk to like Mike Iconelli, for example, who I like to call Mickle Ickle Nickel, that I don't know why. I got a dumb brain that does it. Every time I hear his name, it says it. It says Mickle Ickle Nickel. And now I say it out loud. And I only bring it up because one time you said his name on here and then I said that and you're like, what did you say? And I'm like, I said that out loud. That was weird. And then I had to explain myself. So, but the tight vibration excels in the cold water.
Okay.
Like these are great baits to be cast in this time of year. Well, not this time of year. Wait until you can fish for bass. I mean, technically, you could just be like, I thought a big crappie would try to eat it.
But I know what you're saying though is this early spring before the water really hits it, like right as the season's kind of like right as in Minnesota, of course. Check your local regs. Right as Minnesota seasons are starting to hit.
Well, and because of this vibration too, where the rattles and stuff and the tight vibration, people do use these ice fishing and stuff too, because that fast vibration and that noise can call in fish. Not necessarily that they come and like eat it. It's almost like you're ripping it up, making that noise gets them in, and then you kind of like slowly bounce it and gets them to eat it. I mean, this is just another example
lipless
of like some crazy shapes.
Like you're still on lipless.
Still on the lipless. But I'm just trying to give like a couple of examples of like how they can look different.
Yeah,
these are all really the same thing. It's just different shapes, different sizes.
That one looks like
colors.
Those fake plastic red lips that you get like a sucker on.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, this one's made by Arc, and it's got cool eyes.
Oh yeah.
But this one, this red color. I wasn't trying to go super in depth, but that red color works great in the springtime.
Oh,
so you pair that up with the red with the tight vibration and shit.
Yeah,
you can fish this in clear water. You can fish this in dingy water.
Well, do you want to just go into color on these for a minute, or do we have to save that for later?
No, we can go in right now. Like this one here,
because color goes across all of the crankbaits.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
it's insane the amount of colors that they have available. That like
there's a lot.
Oh my God, blows my mind.
Yeah, and it really comes down to just like personal preference and whatever you want to be using. Sometimes Sometimes I like to throw something that's a little bit different looking than the other guys throwing. Sometimes it goes based off of water clarity.
Okay.
For whatever, like this is a shad, like a natural shad. It's like a literal picture that's like printed on here.
Yeah.
So in clear waters, you want to use something that mimics the natural fish, that somebody's going to be catching and stuff. In dingy, shittier water. Wow, fucking shit, knock something over.
Okay.
In dingy or shittier waters, like something bright like this, like a little bit of blue on the face, yellow on the tummy.
Yeah.
A bright green.
And those hard striking lines on the side too.
Yeah.
Like those black hard striking lines on the side.
The contrast and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're in real dingy water, a lot of times they'll hear it coming before they see it. So it's almost, like, it's nice to have that bright color of like where they're looking for it now. And then they're just going to catch it swimming past real fast. So,
and
natural
so I know
colors,
like color varies across like a whole bunch of like all lures, right? There's of course a ton of different colors in all lures. Is it, to me though, cranks seem to have the largest variety. Am I wrong? Like you were just showing one that look like a real fish, and then you showed one that looked like like, I don't know, it was these fake colors, but you were saying how it had this like pop to it. There's some that look like crawfish. Like it's a fish that's made to, it's a little chubby fake fish that's made to look like a crawfish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what this one is too. So some are made to like
the yellow one that you just had up.
No, this red one. Like that's what that red color is for.
Oh,
like a molten crawfish is like that bright red.
And it just is like,
they don't always look like crawfish. It's just kind of like the stripes. It's almost like they know that if it's moving fast, but the lines that they put on this are like, that's reminiscent of a crawfish, not of a regular fish.
Right.
So it's not as detailed as this BX Brad is. This is a Rapala. This is a very cool looking bait.
I think it is cool looking.
Yeah. But yeah, some of them are made to mimic crawfish, which is weird, but you don't necessarily always need to have it, like the body shape doesn't need to mimic it. You can get crawfish lures.
Yeah.
I have crawfish lures. I like to use
I actually
them on
just picked up some of the Crush City ones.
We talk about that later. Yeah. But I mean, like you can get crawfish crankbaits.
Oh,
where they're like shaped like crawfish. I have Rebel make some. Where the body's like completely like molded to look like a crawfish.
But it's still a crankbait.
Yep. Those are my favorite for the river because Rebels are a little bit cheaper than some of the other ones. They've been around forever. Some of the other ones can get pretty expensive. So, and I don't use a lot of them, but I have them.
And so like, we'll just, let's stay on color just for a little bit longer. There's UV colors, right? Like they have ones that have UV color on them.
Yep.
And that kind of goes like, you could find things with UV color and things that glow on other, other sort of lures. But like the thing that it's like the crawfish. They paint the little tiny crankbait fish to look like a crawfish, but they also take the little tiny fish that is a crankbait and they paint it chartreuse yellow with a white belly or something like that. Like they put this you'll just find a completely unnatural color.
Yeah.
And it'll just be that and white. And you're like, what? But that color is just totally unnatural. Like, it doesn't look like, it just looks like a fake little fish that's been painted hyper viz yellow. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I just don't see that in much other lures. Maybe I'm not versed enough in other lures.
Well, you can get a lot of different crazy colors, like this, like green on top, yellow on the bottom.
Like crazy green, crazy yellow. I don't know how to explain them.
Yeah, it's just bright.
Right.
You can get a lot of crazy colors. I think the thing is you can get a lot of different colors in a lot of different stuff. I think crankbaits are probably the easiest to be able to pull it off. Like soft plastics and stuff, I think sometimes are harder to make some of those colors.
Like make the plastic that color.
Yeah, where a crankbait you can color whatever you want. But also I think it's because crankbaits are so popular and so versatile and so many people's favorite way to fish. Because if you're a little impatient and you still feel like you're doing something even when you're not catching fish with a crankbait because you're just casting it out and ripping it back in.
Yeah, you're out there working.
There's so many people that make so many of these that each lure, each company has their own color, their own style. So each color is a little bit different from each company. Yeah. And they have different variations of each one within the same company.
Oh, like I like the 13.
These are two. Oh yeah, these are both perch from Rapala.
Oh, they're both perch, but one is like
one's way brighter. One's like a natural perch.
Yeah, one is like turn the saturation up to 100, and the other one's like this is what a perch looks like.
Yep, 100%. Like they're just like here's a bright one. But I was gonna say the sizes too, because you can get different stuff. There's smaller crankbaits like this. I have another one that's like a size down from that. These are the KVDs. There's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. Like those are the inches. Those KVD stuff makes it easy.
Okay.
But that's, another personal preference. Like a more pressured fish or like a kind of a neutral day after like a cold front or whatever, they might be more likely to go for a smaller bait.
Sure.
If they're super aggressive, casting out a big one might work.
Right.
Or, if you're going for a bigger fish, a lot of times bigger lure does catch the bigger fish.
Right.
You might catch less fish, and that's not to say that a big fish won't eat a smaller bait. But if you're like, I'm going for a trophy, might want to get a big lure.
You might want to get a trophy sized bait.
But you can get crankbaits that are little.
Holy shit, dude. That one's tiny. That's like the size of your finger. I mean, you're a big guy. You got big hands, so
that's the lipless.
Oh my God.
That's the rattle trap. If you're wondering, that's how you rattle trap.
Rattle trap.
Yep.
By the way, it does not look like a rat, but it is the rattle trap.
The rattle trap. Yep. So those are just little guys.
Do you fish them all the same then? Like depending on the size? I mean, not fish them all the same because there's many different ways to fish a crankbait, correct? Which we don't want to get into great detail about.
I mean, not really. It's more of just there's different ways to retrieve a crankbait.
Oh, okay.
There's different ways to fish a lipless one. Like you can yo-yo it, kind of like you're jigging it. You can burn it, like cast it out and just reel it as fast as you can.
Okay.
And then there's, just like a steady retrieve, but you can go slow. You can just pause. You can just be reeling and just stop for a second and reel again, which can be a problem with lipless ones because they sink. Right. A lot of the other crankbaits, almost all the crankbaits that I have float. Where like a jerkbait, like that original floating minnow you had, is an old school crankbait jerkbait that floats. Like
just sits on top of the water.
Yeah, this KVD jerkbait I was holding up, this thing suspends.
Okay.
So that's a big difference of, when you're casting it out and pulling it in. That when you're that other crankbait is going, moving like this, and you pause it, it goes whoop, floats up a little bit, and then goes again. Whoop. So almost goes backwards a little bit too.
Yeah, so that's what I was just going to ask. So to get back and to get into to transition into bills or lips, whatever you want to call them, we'll probably use it both ways, and you'll talk about that, I'm sure. But like, is it to say the lipless one, if you stop reeling, goes down, and the ones with the lips go up? If you stop reeling.
Yeah. For the most part, most crankbaits with the lips float.
Yeah. And so if you're doing a crank, pause, crank situation, you have a lip on, you're doing a crank, pause, it's going up, it's going more shallow. And if you're doing a crank, pause with a lipless, it's going to go straight forward, down, deeper into the water, forward, down, deeper into the water.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Right.
So that's a big difference. I mean, that's just, I don't know. For a beginner, I'm like, oh shit, that makes a big difference to me.
Yeah. But you don't have to pause with the, lipless. You can just keep
I'm just saying if you're doing a crank, pause, crank method.
Or if you kind of like that pause with the lipless, instead of stopping reeling, you can just like lift the rod tip a little bit. So instead of doing like a pause where it kind of floats up, you just lift the rod tip and then it would just kind of like, lift up that way.
It just moves.
But it would never stop swimming for the most part. I mean, I guess it would if you when you put your rod tip back down. So you'd be kind of like, and then it'd fall for that half a second, when you put your rod tip back down.
Yeah, but if you do it quick, it's just moving a couple inches and not like feet.
Yeah. Yeah. But there could be exceptions to the rules. Like I have not used this frit side yet. There's a couple of like that are kind of in between the lipless crankbait and a regular crankbait, which are what people refer to like as a flat-sided crankbait. And you got, this is
What's a flat-sided crankbait? Is that what you're bringing up right now?
Whoa. See, it's kind of the same shape, but it's skinny. So this is a...
Wait, so yeah, because it's not round, like its chubbiness isn't round.
Yeah. This is Art Defoe. These are Rapalas.
Okay.
And this is Art Defoe. Makes, like, he's the one that designs these, and these are like, this is an OG Garage Slim, and then they also have like the OG Slim. They're a little bit different, but they're like, if
they're
I hold
one
this,
width, where like the other lipped ones that I have. Yeah, there you go. Look at the width change.
Yeah.
When you're looking from the top down on this thing, yeah. One stays the same and one changes. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah. And those are like almost the same. I think they're the same size bait. Mm-hmm. And you have like, these are just a couple of examples. This is the Otts one that I have, and this is the Berkeley Fritz side.
Oh, whoa.
So they're both like very skinny.
Yeah.
But they're shaped. Now this one may sink. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't used this yet, and I don't remember what it said on the package.
Yeah, when you got the package, yeah.
And then some of these thin ones too, like this is the Otts. Nothing.
Oh yeah, you're shaking. You've been shaking them all like that, and now you have one that you're shaking. It's just doing nothing.
But this Fritz side has a couple of chambers, so the noise comes out better, and they're like smaller BBs. Oh wait, never mind. I don't know what the chambers are for. I shook it before. I think those are hooks.
So quiet you can't even hear it?
No, I don't think so.
Put it up to the front of your mic. Huh.
No, this is silent. I thought those chambers had a rattle. I learned something today. Maybe they have a rattling version and I didn't get the rattling version. Doesn't matter. I like the way it is. Like
this one's maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Just without this one might be floating. But dude, isn't that a cool color? It's like a matte sunfish. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool.
So tell about the lip, or sorry, if there's more, but I was going to say, you've been holding now these lip ones up, and I want to just talk about the lip and the bill or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So hold on. We'll get to the...
Yep. Okay.
I just want to keep going because we were talking about, we had the lipless crankbaits.
Right.
Are like the fast vibrating, like cold water.
Yeah.
These are also like a fast vibrating, like cold water style bait with this shape. And then you start getting into...
But they have a bill on them still.
Right.
But
yep. They have a bill.
Okay. So it's like a lipless. Everything you just said about lipless kind of applies, except for there's a lip in it now.
Yeah. And you can use them to get... These ones aren't... They're definitely going to be fished like a regular crankbait. They're just going to... They're going to have the tighter vibration like a lipless.
Mm-hmm.
Because these ones... I mean, now that I say that, this one's got to float. Because I think it's almost like... I think they all float because it makes it easier to try to dial in the depth of what you're using. Because you can use lines and stuff to get all the different depths.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean... I said, hold on. I think maybe we'll move on to the next one afterwards because maybe we won't come back to this. But these are kind of interesting with the different lips and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Because you got different shapes, and like this slim is a rounded one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know why they chose the rounded one. I know that, you know, you can use different shapes for different stuff, but like the Fritz side is more of like a... This one's kind of like a coffin style. It's closer.
Are you talking about you're talking about the bill now?
Yeah, the bill shape itself is like a square.
Yeah.
Kind of like a squared off.
Yeah.
But this one's almost like a coffin style. I don't know what you would necessarily call this one because a square bill is like squared off at the edges. So I suppose it would be that, but it's so pronounced, almost like wider than a normal square bill would be.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll just call it a square bill. But a square bill is really good at deflecting off of cover. Because the edges, like as it's moving back and forth, it'll hit the cover. And the rounded bill is not so much. I gotta try to get my hand behind there, but a rounded bill is not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the difference. So, and can you explain just the lip, like a little more? I mean, it's just a piece of plastic stuck in the front of the fish.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's what it is. And they come out at different spots because of how they want the bait to react and move. I mean, these are really kind of trying to achieve the same thing. So,
but we're looking at one manufacturer using a square bill and one using that rounded bill.
Yep. Okay. But they're both like flat, skinny bills. They come basically like straight off the nose.
Yeah.
But you got the bills will be more of like a clear plastic. And if you're trying to achieve a lesser diving depth, it's going to go straight down so it doesn't catch as much water.
Oh.
So this is for like a shallow one.
Okay.
This one only dives to 2 or 3 feet, I believe. I can't remember what this one is. This one actually might be like
that bill. I don't even know if I've seen one. I'm sure I have.
1 foot.
But 1 foot.
Yeah, I think like these two are like considered. I know for sure this DT Fat is like a wake bait. See how that bill goes straight down?
Yeah, it looks like. You ever seen a dog pant real hard, like a big dog pant real hard on a real hot day, and that tongue's just flopping out of the front of its tongue, like snout?
Yep.
It looks like the dog's tongue flopping out of the front of the snout, like it just fell out.
So I think this one's made. These are both the Strike Kings. This is almost like identical lures, but you can see that this one is made to go like a foot and this one's made to go like 4 feet. Yeah,
because one bill is at like, I mean, to start putting it in angles, one bill is at like 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And the other one's at like 75 or 45 even, they're huge differences in them.
If you kind of think about like how it would drag through the water when being pulled. Like this one, like the line's being tied on the nose, and as it's being pulled, the water's, catching it here, but it's not really catching like enough drag to like pull it downwards because of how tight it is. So it just kind of stays upright. Where this one, a little bit more is going to turn it a little bit more to give you that angle.
Yeah, and that'll start to push it down.
This is into the water. This is the Rapala DT14.
Jesus, the lip on that thing's fucking huge.
Yeah, so that one is like a spoon shaped, and it really catches the water.
Yeah.
So you can have different materials as well. Some of them they're a little bit skinnier, and these are like, this is the Arashi, the Storm Arashi. That's a square bill.
Oh yeah, okay.
But this is literally a circuit board. They have circuit board square bills. And
what?
The Arashi Deep, which is the 10-footer, pretty much same bait. One's a little bit chunkier. A lot of times the shorter, the less diving one are like chunkier, but these are both Storm Arashi, and this one has a round.
Yeah.
But they're circuit boards. They're thin as shit.
They're crazy small.
But what you see here is these are self-tuning. They're kind of cool. You never have to dick with them.
Whoa. I didn't even know you could.
Yeah, you can. Some of them want to like pull one side or the other, and you can take your pliers and twist them. But these ones, you don't have to mess with it.
And how does that work?
What?
Like, okay, so the ones you were showing also, they connect, like you tie your line on to the bill.
Oh yeah, some of them, yeah.
So there's different ways of are tying onto the bill, not tying onto the bill. What's the deal with that? Have you noticed anything? Does it?
These two Arashis, they tie onto the bill because underneath there's that metal piece. That metal piece is free floating.
Oh,
it moves
okay.
back and forth. That's why they're like self-tuning. So the Arashis are a little bit weirder, but the deep diving ones, the line is way up on the bill, all of them.
Okay.
And some of the shallow ones are too. It just depends on what they're trying to accomplish. Like, it's not even a brand thing all the time. This is a Rapala where the short diving one has the line tie right on the bill.
Yeah.
This is a Rapala where the line tie is coming out of the face.
And it's another short diver.
Right.
Yeah, you can I can tell now that you've taught me how to read the lips, basically. So let me ask one question before I don't know how far you're going to go, how much more bill talk we have. But
I can show you a real good example of what
I want to talk about these 13s that we got before we get off the bills. I just want to make sure that we get to that because this thing, dude. This thing's got me having some questions.
Which one do you have? Is yours is a shallower diver, right?
Yeah. I got the Jabberjaw 60. It doesn't 60. Go, it's not super deep.
Oh, I got the 62, but I think that the 60 refers to the size.
Yeah, of the actual body of the not the lip. So I forgot to check the box on what this is, and I don't know how to read. I'm looking all over the lure, and I don't see any numbers. But you want to get in this? Should I ask my question?
Dude, I don't think I have answers for you, but I think I know what the question is.
Like everyone I've seen you show so far, and every crank that I've seen before, the bill is stuck directly into the face, like super glued into the face of the fish.
Yeah.
That's the lip moving around inside the 13.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that, dude?
I don't know what to tell you.
I've never felt anything like this going through the water. And then I heard that and felt that. And I was like, dude, is it? I don't know. I just don't fish that as much. But as soon as I started cranking this thing in, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
These ones are crazy in a couple of different ways. First, they're normally not metal. This is a metal bill.
Right.
So I think they're going to be kind of like top heavy a little bit. I feel like these are going to cast really nice with that metal. Just whoosh.
Oh yeah, they do.
Take off.
They fucking fly.
Did you try?
Yeah. So me and my daughter were practice casting. You can see this one here. I got nothing on it. No hooks. I just threw it. Look at the eye on that. What the fuck, dude?
I know. I'm trying to get it
to focus in. Yeah.
To focus.
So
isn't that cool?
Oh my God. It's so fucking cool. So yeah. So you can see the one I'm holding up, and it's again this blue color, like that doesn't exist in the world. It's so bright blue. I know my camera's further away, so if you're on the video version and you're coming over, it's like, I can hardly see Josh's. Well, I'm trying to make the light catch the blue so it shines right.
Yeah.
But you can see here I don't have the troubles on it because got my daughter a fishing rod.
Hell yeah.
And so we hooked up a couple baits and we just went out and took the trebles off when we went out and we were casting.
Nice.
Because they're the heavier ones I have, so she could actually get it out there. And I wanted to try these 13s, dude. It soars. I was like, holy fuck, this thing flies.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So my educated guess, and all it is a guess currently, is that this is going to have a slightly more erratic action because that bill's not fixed. It's not going to be a constant back and forth the whole time. It's going to kind of I think every once in a while it'll catch a little bit more and move, like a little bit more left, a little bit more right.
Sure.
That's another one. I don't have any, but there's, I think they're called skid or something. Rapala makes one.
Okay.
Where the bill isn't flat. It's like a bowl, like a half pipe kind of shaped. It comes off the face and it's like curved. What? And those are way erratic. They're like all over the place.
That must feel
I don't have any
crazy.
Of them. Yeah. You can feel them fishing.
Or you don't have any of those ones you said?
I don't have any yet, but
I got to say something quick. I just didn't think the bill. I knew the bill had a lot to do with crankbaits. Like it's kind of a main feature of the crankbaits, but like,
yeah,
we're just gonna keep going here. How much
yeah,
bill's difference. This is crazy. That's
it's
a half pipe.
definitely
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. That's a crazy one, but it definitely has like some of these the bodies. Like this is such a little fat guy.
Yeah,
but
looks like a little bug.
Yeah, so when you're looking at them, little fat guys, little short fat guys, or even big fat guys have like a wide wobble. This is a big fat guy. He's big. He's freaking thick. He's a thick bitch. But they have a real wide wobble. And this is like a wake bait. This is like a foot underneath the surface, causing surface disturbance. You can see it just whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah.
Stirring up the surface is what you're saying.
Stirring up the surface, like just underneath the surface, but the surface of the water is moving because it's close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, these wide wobbles are, according to my guy Canali, he's like, wide wobbles we want to use in like the late summer, kind of a mid-range, like Rapala DT6, which isn't like the super widest, we want to use those in the middle temperatures, and the thin crankbaits we want to use in the spring. Now, I have caught a big ass bass early in the season on the widest wobble shit I got.
For sure.
I have been fishing in the middle of the summer. I'll show you. Look at these are two exact lures. They're literally the same shit.
Different
the one
colors.
On the right, nope.
What?
The one on the right has just seen
quite
a few fish, muskies, and everything. Like those are legit teeth marks.
Oh yeah. Yep, you're holding it close enough to the camera where I can see the like scar on the side of it.
Yeah, they're holes from a muskie. A big one. I couldn't believe that it ate it. I got it up and there was nothing but line poking out of his mouth, and I just froze and we just stared at each other for a while. And he just opened his mouth and swam away. He's like, "Oh, is that yours?" Oh, I was like, that was fucking wild.
Dude. What the fuck, dude? That's crazy.
Yeah, but the DT10, that small of a bait, midsummer. I mean, it was like a 40-inch fish. I didn't get it in to like measure it, but it was a big, like good sized muskie.
But you've caught enough to know to give it a good, realistic.
Yeah. So I know I think we're starting to push it on time.
We're getting close.
I'm gonna show you these crankbaits real quick because I got that one different color, but the DT series is my favorite. I just love them. I love how easy they make it, and they all say it on the bill. Some of these other ones, this is a big old bitch. This is not a DT series. This one has a big. This one,
dude, is the bill
this one
bigger
dives
than
to like?
body?
I think this one, not quite, but it's close.
Yeah,
I think this one dives to 20. This one's got some big old balls on that bitch.
No kidding.
This one's kind of like a, like a fun version of a bluegill.
Yeah,
they get like that, and they put the eyeballs right in the front, like goofy ass fish's eyes.
It just looks like googly eyes at this point.
Yeah, they just put them up there for fun or whatever. But this guy doesn't say what it is, but I'm pretty sure this one dives to 20. I think this is a man's. I can't remember, but it doesn't say it. It doesn't say anything on the bill.
Right.
Some of the newer stuff is really starting to, like, Rapala is not the only one that does this stuff. This one might be hard to see, but you can kind of see letters on there.
Yeah, I can't see it in the smaller screen, but it might show up in the high res version.
Yeah, you might be able to see that there's letters, but it says Rapala and it says dives to 14.
Nice.
So there you go.
It just tells you
you got a 14.
Here it is.
Yeah. So we'll just hold them up so you can see. We're gonna go down the line. That's a DT 14. A little bit bigger, bait, a little bit bigger body, bigger bill. Then we go to DT 10. Little bit smaller, body.
Oh, yeah.
But the bill's smaller too.
Right.
That one's going to dive to 10. It says Rapala dives to 10.
Right.
Then we go a little bit smaller still.
Oh, yeah.
This one is you can see that the bill starts to change shapes a little bit around here. Like the other one, it literally just became like a smaller version.
Yeah.
This one, it actually like has a slight bend off of the face.
Oh.
It's not like perfectly straight out.
Yeah.
And this is a DT6. You can see it's a little bit thinner too.
Yeah, like it doesn't have that big like duck bill on it so much anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I guess duck bill's not the right word, but like scoop bill.
Yeah, scoop bill is a good way to say it. But that's a DT6, so we're a little bit smaller. So you're dealing with the DT6. Now the funny thing is that like once you start getting shallower, like I was talking about before, we're getting fatter again.
Yeah.
Like this one.
Whoa.
It's hard to hold this up, but this one's fatter again.
Yeah.
And this one is a DT3. So that's a 3. This is a 6. This is a 6. Dang. That's a 3. Yeah. So it starts to go, but
it's way chubbier.
Yeah. And I think they got DT4 now too. So you got all those different, and then this one is actually part of the DT series as well. This one's a DT Fat, just called DT Fat. And it's a 1 foot. It's like right on the surface.
Oh yeah, because that's the one you've been talking about where you just been,
yeah. Yep. So when you're talking beginners, definitely Rapala makes it the easiest to remember and know what you're dealing with because it literally tells you dives to 14, dives to
D2
10.
Yeah, DT
I got the DT stands for dives
7.
to, and I have a 14, 10, 6, 3, and 1 right here. I think they have a 4. And I probably have one someplace, but I didn't see it. but that's what I'm talking about. Like you can get that and each crankbait too. Like you can get, these are the exact same thing. This one dives deeper than this one. So you look at the bill shape, but on the packaging, they all say it. That one that we just had,
the 13,
the 13 fishing.
Yeah.
This 13 fishing, it's kind of hard to see. It shows right there next to 60. It says 7 to 9 feet.
Oh, yeah.
So they all say it. I think yours is lesser than that. I know I have some of the shorter diving ones, but I don't have it. But they're all going to tell you what they are. And some of them are more expensive than others. Even like the Rapalas with this one on the bottom says BX Brat 3. So you can see that one dives to 3 feet. All these other ones don't necessarily like say that stuff. They just have their symbols, so it kind of makes it a little bit shitty with some of them. The Storm Arashis do say,
yeah, because that's also a Rapala company,
right? So exactly. This one's the 5 and this one's the 10. So they're like, yeah, people like this. Put the
it's a really good idea. I don't see it anywhere on the 13, like I said, and
yeah, and like this one is the OG 6. So this one's like a 6 foot, I believe. The 6 might actually be the size too, but we'll say it's a 6 foot diver.
Yeah, and to just clear, like, because I'm sort of got a question in my head, and I just want to make sure, like, hey, this is the beginner's guide. Let me just say it. Let me ask the question. It's not a dumb question. Dives 2. That's as you're reeling it in. Then these lips are bringing it down to that level, and then you just keep going, and you're reeling. It dives to 6 feet fairly quickly after you crank, and you just keep going. You just keep reeling it in, and it just sits at that 6 foot deep and keeps going.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, of course.
It's got to work its way down, and then it does start coming back up. So the longer cast you have, the longer it's going to stay down where it's at. And again, the line does play a role out there.
Oh, right. You kind of been mentioning that on the side.
Well, so monofilament and braided line float. And so if you're using monofilament, the lure isn't going to dive as deep as like when you're using a fluorocarbon of the same diameter. No. Because the diameter plays a role too. Jeez. Which is kind of a mind fuck. And I've heard other people say it too, where they're like using braided line float so it won't dive as deep. But braided line at the same test strength has a way smaller diameter.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually dives deeper most of the time because there's no resistance of the line. Like the lure, the lip is able to pull so hard.
Right.
That
Okay.
it doesn't matter that the line floats because
Yeah.
the lure is able to do more, like the lip is able to catch more water.
Right.
Or not necessarily catch more water, but pull the line through the water better because
Right.
there's less resistance from the
Okay.
line. So, but if you were using a, really thick ass diameter, the braided line, fluorocarbon of the same diameter, I think would work, dive deeper because it sinks.
Because the line itself sinks, and
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
where braided floats. Okay.
So sometimes you can dick around with that a little bit. If you're fishing your favorite lake and you're like,
Sure.
I'm just I'm getting into these weeds a little bit too much. If you switch to something with monofilament, that's like a 20-pound mono, that's thicker and it floats and it's going to, maybe lift it up a foot. It might dive a foot less than it used to when you switch it up like that.
Yeah.
So you would barely be kissing the weeds and stuff, which is fine. If you're touching the weeds and stuff, you can actually trigger a bite when you rib it free.
Oh.
But every time when you're reeling, this is a good tip. When you're reeling, you want to be able to feel that vibration. If you're not feeling that vibration, there's too much weeds or there's something wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a really good beginner tip for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And
good one.
The other stuff, like,
yeah, I was gonna say before we have to wrap up, you got to reel with, or I mean, you got a whole
rod. I got two things.
setup?
I got no, I don't have a reel yet, but I'm gonna get a reel. But I was just gonna show you, like, this is the Mojo glass that I just got. Mojo Bass glass, fiberglass rods with anything that you are using treble hooks will help you land fish.
Really?
Because of the like constant give that it has. It's like almost like spring loaded, and it makes it harder for the fish to throw your bait. It's like some of the other ones when they jump and stuff, the other rods are like stiffer. I don't know how to really explain it, but trust me when I say that the fiberglass, I'm fucking slapping it over here, that the fiberglass helps.
Okay.
Now here's the like when you're going with cheaper fiberglass, some of them can get pretty damn heavy.
Oh.
And they're not as strong, so they can break easier. Well, I shouldn't say they're not as strong. Some of the older ones are not as strong as some of the newer ones, so you can have issues like that. But you're also sacrificing feel. It's not a real sensitive rod, so it works well for crankbaits. It's not a real versatile as you're switching it. So I'm saying, as a beginner's guide, if you really want to get into crankbaits, this is a good rod to have, but it's not versatile. It's not going to be something you're going to be able to use for everything. I have this 100% for deep diving crankbaits.
Oh, okay.
It
What's
is
a deep diver to you? What does that mean?
Oh, like 10 foot or 10. This is kind of like medium for some people, but like 10 foot or more.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, these, when you're cranking them in, you can feel it.
I bet, like the resistance, right?
If you're unseasoned and you don't know what you're feeling, it can feel like you constantly have a fish. Like, I think I got something. Like, you do not. That is how hard your fucking lure is pulling, man.
Right.
And that's why I wanted, this is a medium heavy, so it's a pretty sturdy rod.
Yeah.
It's a 7.4 and it's the fiberglass. And the other thing I was going to touch on, I don't have the reel for this, but ideally when you're talking like deep diving crankbaits and stuff, a lower gear ratio is a better play.
Oh.
Because think of it like riding a 10-speed bike.
Okay.
A lower gear ratio is like putting that bitch in first. Like you're climbing a hill. It's not hard to crank when you got that deep diving. That deep diving is giving you a lot of resistance, and lower gear ratio is making it easy, and it's less fatigue as the day goes on.
Yeah.
Plus it's kind of helping you regulate. Like I have faster reels so I can still use it, but I have to be mindful and like reel slow instead of like just reeling at a like good steady pace.
Right. You have to because really focus on the actual like full rotation of the reel. And yeah.
So it's like kind of, because each reel can like pick up, like a 5-4-1 can pick up, a good foot less line every rotation of the handle than a higher gear ratio one.
Sure.
So when you're talking about that, how much faster you're pulling it, when you reel it at a good clip, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 5 feet, 5 feet more than you were with the other one. It can happen fast, but at the same time, if you're really trying to dial it in, these motherfuckers you can burn like crazy if you're really trying to get a reaction bite. And if you got a high gear ratio, these don't have any lip and there's barely any resistance. You can reel those fast as shit.
Just put a lipless on and just burn that motherfucker.
Yeah. And that's the thing too with some of these, like where you want to get quality ones. Mm-hmm. Some of these baits, when you're trying to burn them real fast, they'll roll. They won't stay straight. They'll just start like rolling over on themselves and acting all weird. You can't go too fast with some of them.
Right. So that's something you have to watch for when you're actually when you're going in, that's a great way to say it is when you're going in to get something and you're thinking of fishing fast, you have to be considerate of like the big lip and how deep it is and everything like that. Like if you're trying to fish fast, go lipless and burn it.
Right. If you're trying, If you're trying to burn it, like you might be able to burn it with some of the other ones. It's just like maybe look at some reviews or get some quality stuff. There's some cheap garbage out there.
Sure.
You can go to Walmart and buy some of their, I have no idea what Ozark Trail baits are fished like, but they're cheaper than the rest of them. But it's Walmart's brand.
Yeah,
does Walmart know anything about fishing? Right? Mm-hmm. Right. Or do they just make a bait that looks just like the other ones?
Yeah.
That doesn't perform as well because they don't really know what they're doing. They just got a blueprint and said, I can make that. And they don't really care. They're just out there to make a buck.
Yep.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do know what they're talking about. But I'm just saying, be careful. Look at your reviews, try to figure it out. Because those ones where they're cheaper and they look exactly the same, you might be like, well, what's the difference? And then you crank it and anything over like 3 miles an hour, it's like rolling over and you can't fish it as fast as you want to.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, crankbaits you can fish on virtually anything. But the deep diving ones do have so much force that there's certain rods and reels that are going to be really hard for you to use them on. But don't be scared if you want to go out and try this stuff. You can get a deeper diving crankbait. You can get any of these square bills. You can go out and cast them on a spinning rod and reel setup. It'll work. You can use, nothing super fancy with a bait caster. It doesn't need to be a fiberglass rod that's a 7.4 with a nice gear ratio. Like you can play around with these. You can get around. You can use it on anything. I'm just talking like ideal situations.
Sure.
There's things made for this. The reel I'm looking at is an Abu Garcia, and it's called a winch. Like there's, that's why it's named that. It's to help you be able to pull in these heavy,
It's just like style. I think about like a Jeep pulling itself up a rock with this winch in the front. It's a slow
and that don't
going,
go fast.
but
it's
just steady and
slow.
It works and it just keeps going.
Yep. And it pulls it and it's like it doesn't even struggle.
Right.
Like you and 20 dudes have a rope and you're pulling like a motherfucker. You can't get it to go, but that winch is just like
keep it going. Yeah.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Nice. All right. Well, we got to wrap this up. I feel like we could go a little longer. You kind of touched on balsa wood quick. Is there anything to material that you specifically want to bring to the table before we go, or any last things that you feel like we didn't get to here before we wrap up in quick couple minutes?
No, not really. It's just like the wood is a little bit less durable, but it'll still last a long time. You got the one with the bite marks on it. I had a DT Fat in blue that I had a weed on, and I kind of whopped it on the water real fast. And then all of a sudden the whole body was sitting there and the bill was still tied on, and around the front had just cracked off because it's just wood.
No.
So I just like ripped its face off, which I don't think is ever going to really happen in any of this plastic stuff.
Right.
It's like plastic and metal that I think is going to hold up quite a bit better. But it's all just kind of a personal preference. All of these balsa wood ones aren't hollow. They're all solid.
Yeah. They're a piece of wood. Like they're literally carved out of a piece of wood.
I'm trying to show that,
Well, you can't grab the trebles too hard.
Is there a rattle in this fucker thing? There is. What the shit, dude? I didn't know there was a rattle in this.
How?
I don't know. They must it looks like there's like epoxy on the tail. They must throw a bead in there.
Oh, maybe they carve it out and then. Or is that just the lip making noise? Like the.
No, I got my fingers on.
Oh yeah.
Every part that moves. I guess there's a rattle in a DT10.
Okay, I thought that all the woods were hard too.
Yeah, I thought
just solid through, that they were just carved out of wood. That's crazy.
Is it like that the whole way down?
One thing, well, you investigate that before we go. One thing I did want to say is there is, wood, which again, always solid. I mean, that we thought, like.
Oh, the 3 doesn't have a rattle.
So the one thing I guess I just wanted to point out is plastics have the ability to be clear. And that's like one of the bigger differences. I don't know what clear is or means, but this one I got here, it's got a mirror inside.
Oh yeah. Some of them.
So like there's it's a clear plastic body with some color on it, and then they went and put reflective material inside of it. And so there's things like that plastics are doing that, other things are not.
This one you can see too, that you see that ball bearing kind of roll.
I can't see it in the low. Oh yeah. There it goes. Never mind. I got it.
So this one has one big ball bearing. It's got that rattle.
Yeah.
But like some of these cool ones like this, that chamber is set up for it to roll back like that. Now all the weight's in the tail.
Oh.
So when you cast it, it's like a missile.
Oh. And then when it swims, it rolls back up to the front.
Yep.
Nice.
It just rattles around in there. Yeah, because it tips down so it rolls forward.
Yeah. Other things to take into consideration if you're...
Yeah, and some are like a kind of a hybrid between the two. So it's just really kind of play around with it. Like the BX on this BX Brat stands for Balsa Extreme. And this front part is very clearly plastic. This lip is plastic. The face that it meets is plastic. But there's a line that this actually becomes
like
balsa.
They have a plastic head and they attach balsa wood body to it.
It's almost like there's like plastic all the way down the side, and then you can see the wood. Like there's certain colors where you can actually see the wood inside of it. That like the outside's like clear plastic and there's balsa on the inside.
Oh, that's cool. Like a composite. Like that's a composite one.
This is like $11, I think, for this little guy. So some of these get expensive. None of these are really that cheap, but like these are probably the cheapest ones. The Strike King KBD ones. Those I think are only like $6. Okay. $5 or $6 around there.
Sure.
And if you watch for sales, I mean, like how you just said, damn, all the baits that we bought, these are all like $10.99.
Yeah.
Every one of these 13 fishing ones, but we got them on damn good sales.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as the material goes, no, I don't know. I know that some people like prefer the balsa wood, and there's like they like the floating. Some of them, the balsa floats faster in some circumstances.
Okay.
Than the other ones, but I think that's just a personal preference. It doesn't. The floating speed doesn't really matter to me. It's more of the shape and the bill.
Right. That's going to be the impact when you're going in and shopping for the first time or whatever.
And you really do want to try to like Mike says, and he's not the only one. It like water temperature really plays a role in what you're doing, but sometimes going outside the box can help you.
Right.
You know, if it's a real pressured system, he says it too. If it's a real pressured system, everybody's out there using the freaking fat one.
Yeah.
And they're real wide wobble in the summer.
With the chartreuse paint on it.
And and nobody's catching the fish. If you go like a muted, thinner one, because, you know, they've been seeing the same thing all day.
Right.
Giving them that tight vibration might get them a bite.
Right.
They might think like, oh, you know, and it might be the middle of summer when you're like, I shouldn't be using this tight wobble.
Give it a shot if it feels right. Which is, I was just going to say, like, that's part of the kind of magic of crankbaits in a way, and why this became its own episode, is because so many choices, so many colors, so many different, just by putting a lip on it, right? Yeah. Like, it just putting a different lip on the front of the same bait changes it quite a bit, and it's still a crankbait. And so, like, there's just all these different options that are like available to
and
you.
Like the shape of it. Like, this one says that it's the 13 fishing one that we just got. This one is more of like that square bill shape.
Yeah,
that's going to deflect off a cover better than the rounded one. Right. So you might be fishing at the same depth, but you know that you're going to be casting it near some, you know, like a fallen tree, or you're casting like on a rocky point or whatever.
Yeah,
that might be the guy to go with,
right?
Because, you know, you're hitting that stuff. The rounded one can still deflect, especially when you're talking about like rocks or gravel. Like, you can get down there and not really give you any problems. But the square bill deflects off of stuff more, and a coffin bill is really kind of the same idea,
right?
And as a square bill, like as far as the deflection goes, but a coffin bill is old school, you know, Halloween style coffin,
right?
That, you know, that like 3-sided, So they deflect off of cover better than the rounded ones.
Sure.
So that's another thing to think about too. Like, this might die of the same depth as the other one, but if you know that there's a lot of shit for you to bounce it off of, even if you're casting docks.
Oh, sure.
If it's getting close to a dock, the square bill can bounce off of that post better.
Nice.
And honestly, it's weird. I know if you're a beginner and you're just hearing it, it sounds weird. Deflecting it off of cover is what you want to do. Because it can trigger bites. When you bounce it off of the pole, when you bounce it off of whatever, I don't know what it is, if it's a noise, if it's...
Or just looks weird.
It might be the fish is watching. Yeah, it might be that the fish is watching it, just being like, that guy's swimming kind of weird. And then all of a sudden he like runs into a post and he's like, dumb shit ran into a post. I'm eating them.
Easy. I got this one.
Yeah, easy. I got this, dude. He can't even swim straight. There's something. I'm going to do him a favor. He's not going to make it.
All right, dude. That'll do it for now.
Yeah.
That, I know we've talked a lot about cranks before and just on and off, but, you know, we had to get into it. And what you got?
One more thing. Color can play a role too a little bit. Sometimes, like the clear ones, if you're trying to be more stealthy, a clear one is harder to see sometimes. Like the circuit board one or that metal one can have some flash and like maybe stand out. You know, your fish might notice this metal one, so you might have to switch up.
Talking about the lip
and
again.
Yeah, this one from Rapala, they claim that it's hard for like a fish to see that red.
Yeah, once it goes down further in the water column.
Yeah. So I guess that's one of the things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they say it's harder for the fish to see red. They put red hooks and they put like some red here to make it look like it's bleeding. And it's like, well, can they see it or can't they? so I don't know. But yeah, just another thing to keep in mind. The color can play a role. I wouldn't get hung up on it. But if it's
think more about the body color than the lip color.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, body color, even the body color is not necessarily as important as getting the bait in front of the fish and trying to use the right lure for the right time of year.
Yeah, I got
you know, that kind of stuff is more try to dial that in. Gotcha. But if it comes down to like, I'm casting a crankbait and so is my friend and he's catching more, and you're diving to the same depth, then maybe try to figure it out. Then, like, well, is your color different? Oh, your lip is clear and mine has this metal blade that's flashing like a motherfucker. Maybe that's the difference. They don't want that aggressive flash.
Sure.
Who knows?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of fishing.
Right.
It's all trying to.
It's all trial and error, man.
Trying to dial.
You're out there, and that's the success.
Yep.
All right. Let's wrap it up. Let's get over to the random take. We're gonna talk a little bit of defense because these wolves right now is what's sparking this off. We're gonna get into that in a random take, though. We gotta shut this down on the fishing. Let's hit the break.